Right, welcome back to Reading Booster. Today I have chosen Mr. Tick the Teacher out of our selection of happy families because it is the most relevant one for our situation at the moment, trying to do school at home, if that's not too much of a spoiler. What can we learn from the front cover? We've got the author here, Alan Allberg, and then his illustrator this time is Faith Jacques. Got Mr. Tick the Teacher with a book and a school hat, and then precarious, do you remember that word from last time? Precariously balanced on the letters, we've got a pile of dinner plates, and then we've got a teacher in his gown. Do you see that black robe thing? His gown, and a lady and a bunch of children all looking very happy. Right, Mr. Tick the Teacher. Tick, you can see a tick here down on there, where on the chalkboard where they got the sums right. So I think that's quite a positive, happy name for a teacher. And it was first published in 1981. Can you see the date there? So it's a year after the Mrs. Wobble one from the other day. Mr. Tick the Teacher lived in a big house with his wife and children. His wife's name was Mrs. Tick. The children's names were Tim, Tom and Teddy, Tilly, Trixie and Tess. So that must be the boys there. Tom, Tim and Teddy. Teddy, often short for Edward, for some reason. And the girls' names, Tess, Tilly and Trixie. Mr. Tick worked in a little school. It was so little it had only one teacher. That was Mr. Tick. And it had only 6 children. Can you guess who they were? Did you guess? Can you remember their names? I love how it's got all these sheep grazing just outside the window. I heard in the news today that a load of goats have wandered into a town in Wales, Llandudno, and people might look out of their window and see that scene there today. Every morning at 8:30, Mr. Tick kissed Mrs. Tick and went off to school. Every morning at 8:50, the children waved goodbye to Mrs. Tick and went off to school too. At 9:00, the children lined up in the playground and went into the classroom. Which one was which? I think that's Tom, then Trixie, and I think that's Tess with the glasses. Then Mr. Tick called the register. Tim, here Daddy. Tom, here Daddy. Teddy, here Daddy. Tilly, not here Daddy, said Tom. She forgot her dinner money. She went back to get it. Trixie, here Daddy. Tess, here Daddy. What's she doing needing to pay dinner money to her own father? That's a bit funny. After that, the children had their lessons with Mr. Tick. In the morning, they had reading, writing and arithmetic. That's maths. In the afternoon, they had singing, cooking and games. See there where it says reading, writing and arithmetic. In the old days, they used to call that the 3 R's because reading begins with R. Writing, you can see it doesn't begin with R, but it sounds like it does. Writing with that silent W on the front. And arithmetic, you can hear that R in there. Reading, writing and arithmetic. I guess now we'd call it literacy and maths. Please, Daddy, she's pinched my pencil. I think he should call his dad Mr. Tick when he's in school. In our school, the children whose parents work there call them by their teacher name when they're there. Look, can you see the maths? Can you do that? Gosh, they're doing column addition. That's interesting. I guess they're all learning the same thing at the same time, even though they must be different ages. Unless they're sextuplets. At 3:30, the children said good afternoon to Mr. Tick and went home. Mrs. Tick was waiting for them by the garden gate. Hello, Mummy, the children said. Hello, Tim. Hello, Tom. Hello, Trixie. Hello, Tilly. Hello, Tess, said Mrs. Tick. Then she said, where's Teddy? He was cheeky to the teacher, said Tilly. Daddy kept him in. Now, those of you who are at home at the moment with your parents being like your teachers, I'm sure none of you are being cheeky. So the days went by at the little school, and they were happy days. The children liked the teacher liked the children. The parents were pleased with the school was pleased with the parents. Our teacher is the best. 10 out of 10. They're all lovely. Hooray! But you know in stories how something always has to go wrong. Then one morning Mrs. Tick was reading the newspaper. "Oh dear," she said, "listen to this. Little schools must close. An inspector will visit all little schools. If a school does not have enough children, it will be closed down. The children will go to a bigger school." "Oh dear." "That's bad news," said Mr. Tick. "You children will lose a school, and I will lose a job." "What we need is more children," said Mrs. Tick. "Yes," said Mr. Tick, "but where from?" All of a sudden Tilly said, "I have an idea." So Tilly was that one with the green dress. She whispered it to Teddy. "That's a good idea," said Teddy. He whispered it to Mr. Tick. "That is a good idea," said Mr. Tick. He began to laugh. "We will do it. We'll do it." The next day the children had some surprising lessons in Mr. Tick's class. They had dressing up lessons and making faces lessons. Hang on, is that all the same girl? Is that all Tess, is it, with blue eyes? And yeah, because she's got the same dress on in all of them. So she just got different hairstyles and different costumes. And look, she must have borrowed Tilly's glasses. And riding their bikes in school lessons. And eating lots of dinners lessons. Oh, hence that pile of plates on the front. Mr. Tick took some old desks from the school shed. Mrs. Tick put up more pegs in the school cloakroom. Can you guess what was going on? Did you guess? 2 days later, the inspector arrived. Mr. Tick met him at the school gate. "The children are working in groups this morning," he said. "Come and see." Mr. Tick took the inspector round the school. "Here's your coat. Hurry up. He's coming." And so the brave knight rode off. In the classroom, he said, "Here we have the reading group." Maybe that's like us. In the playground, he said, "Here we have the games group. Tackle him." I like their version of PE kits. In the hall, he said, "Here we have the singing group. Louder, please." Who's that leading the singing? Is that Mrs. Tick or is that one of the children? On the school field, he said, "Over there we have the cross-country running group." Gosh, they must have done well to get over there quick enough. "Quick, where's my dress? Help! This can't be mine." I love that, this behind the scenes scene. Can you guess who all the children were? Well, the inspector could not. He said, "This is all very good," and he put it down in his notebook. At playtime, the inspector had a cup of tea with the secretary. Do you know that word? Secretary? Now we'd call the people who work in the office, maybe the office team or the office staff, the secretary. Can you guess who she was? After play, he saw some more groups. "Save me, save me." Wonder what play they're acting out, can you tell? Is it one they've made up? At dinner time, Mr. Tick took the inspector into the hall again. "Here the children are having their dinners," he said. "Hurry up." "Now for the next one." Imagine that, scoffing all those school dinners. Would you like it or would you feel a bit sick? Maybe it depends what's on the menu that day. It's self-service. So why is it self-service in the dinner hall, do you think? Did you get it? So imagine in our dinner hall when we've got about maybe 8 lunchtime supervisors saying you can go when you put your hands up and wiping the tables and supervising the queue and supervising scraping. And then there's the kitchen team giving out the food in the first place. So that is probably needing 9 or 10 adults in the dinner hall. Whereas here, can you see a single adult? See this one here? I think that's the oldest boy dressed up. Because did you see him dressed up in a singing lesson? Is it Tom, the oldest boy? Look, here he is. Because if you count, there's only 5 of them singing. And if you look back at the very beginning, if you imagine the oldest boy, is it Tom? His hair's kind of like that. If you imagine him out of those clothes, and into a lady's blouse. Trixie saying to him, "That was a quick change. If you look back, what was he doing before?" Oh, look, there he is. There's Tom in his boy's clothes, saying, "Now for the next one." So he's obviously whisked off, got changed, and got a tray of food. Can you see what's on the menu? Can you see what they're eating? Looks to me like a slice of pie, and then pudding is some pink blancmange, maybe. Remember, even though it was written in, when was it written again? 1981? The setting of it is even more old-fashioned than that. Then the inspector had a cup of coffee with the cook. Can you guess who she was? And he said, "Well, Mr. Tick, there is no need to close this school. You have plenty of children." Then he shook hands with Mr. Tick and said goodbye. Oh, look, there's the picture. That's why they were so happy on the front. "We did it! Hooray! Hooray!" After that, Mr. Tick gave the cook and the secretary a big kiss. Have a little think, who's that? He gave the reading group, the games group, the singing group and the cross-country running group a big hug. And he gave a half-day's holiday to the 6 cleverest and most hard-working children in the whole school. And you can guess who they were. I'm sure you can. Can you remember their names, though? So, on to our new words. We've got the 3 R's, reading, writing and arithmetic, that you might have heard very old people talk about. Arithmetic, remember, is maths. And then, do you remember that word gown? On the front cover, we've got Mr. Tick wearing his gown. So he would have got that when he became a teacher, when he graduated. So it kind of shows that he's a proper teacher in the book. It's very old-fashioned to wear your teaching gown now. It's kind of, it's like a cloak. It's got a collar and it kind of does up there. And on his head, he's got that funny square with a tassel hanging off it. And that's called a mortarboard. That's part of the sort of graduation outfit, uniform thing for when people have finished their training or their degree at university. Okay, so we've got the 3 R's, we've got gown, and do you remember that office lady? She was called secretary, the secretary, Mrs. Tick being the secretary. It's not a word that we use so much now. It's got that sort of old-fashioned feeling of a woman sitting there doing the typing at the desk or on the computer, while the man is the boss and he's telling her what to do. And of course, the world isn't like that anymore. So we've got secretary, gown, and the 3 R's. And I hope that you really enjoyed the story today. Can you put in the comments on Seesaw if there are any other words that were new for you that you learnt today, or that you'd like me to explain? Or if you can use any of the words from today in your own sentence, that'd be great. Right, see you next time.